The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning in March, unmarked except for her name typed across the front. And inside was a letter that would change everything about Samantha Greene's impossible future. She stood in the cramped kitchen of the apartment she shared with her mother and younger brother, still in her coffee-stained waitress uniform from the morning shift, staring at words that made no sense. Full scholarship. All expenses covered. 4 years. Anonymous benefactor. Her hands shook so badly the paper rustled like autumn leaves. "Mom," she called out, her voice breaking. "Mom, you need to see this." Linda Greene emerged from the bathroom, hair wrapped in a towel, concern etching lines deeper into her tired face. At 42, she looked a decade older, worn down by double shifts at the textile factory and the weight of raising 2 kids alone since her husband walked out 6 years ago. She took the letter, read it once, then twice, then sank into the nearest chair. "This is real," Linda whispered. "I think so. It has the university letterhead, a phone number. They want me to call to confirm acceptance." Samantha had applied to state universities on a whim, knowing the partial scholarship she'd been offered would never be enough. Even with financial aid, the gap was insurmountable. She'd already resigned herself to community college while working full-time, watching her dreams of becoming an architect stretch into an indefinite future. But this letter promised everything. Tuition, room and board, books, even a modest living stipend. Someone, somewhere, had decided she was worth investing in. The university confirmed it was legitimate. The donor wished to remain anonymous. They had a program for promising students from difficult circumstances. She met the criteria. All she had to do was maintain a 3.0 GPA and submit progress reports each semester to the Scholarship Foundation. Simple as that, except nothing about it felt simple. That night, lying in the bed she'd slept in since childhood, Samantha stared at the ceiling and wondered who would do this for a stranger. What kind of person had money like this to give away? And why her, out of thousands of deserving students? The questions followed her through the summer as she worked extra shifts to save money for the things the scholarship didn't cover. They followed her as she packed her life into 2 suitcases and a backpack. They followed her as her mother cried at the Greyhound station, holding her tight and whispering, "Make us proud, baby. Make yourself proud." University was overwhelming in the best possible way. Samantha threw herself into her studies with the desperation of someone who knew how easily it could all disappear. Architecture was demanding, requiring endless hours in the studio, but she loved every minute. She loved the precision of drafting, the creativity of design, the way a building could shape how people moved through space and time. While other students complained about all-nighters, she felt grateful to have the luxury of complaining about homework instead of whether she could afford to eat. Every semester, she wrote a report to the foundation. She kept them professional but couldn't help adding personal touches. Thank you notes that tried to convey the impossible depth of her gratitude. Descriptions of projects she was proud of. Mentions of the architecture club she joined, the study abroad opportunity she'd been selected for junior year, the firm that offered her a summer internship. She never knew if the donor read them or cared, but writing them felt important, like keeping a promise to someone she'd never met. Years passed in a blur of blueprints and building codes, late-night coffee runs and early morning critiques. Samantha graduated with honors, job offers from 3 respected firms, and a portfolio she was genuinely proud of. At the ceremony, with her mother and brother cheering embarrassingly loud from the stands, she thought about the anonymous donor. Whoever they were, they'd given her more than an education. They'd given her a life she'd never dared imagine. She chose a mid-sized firm in the city, Martinez and Associates, known for sustainable urban design. The work was challenging and meaningful, and she was good at it. Really good. Within 2 years, she was leading small projects. Within 4, she was being assigned major clients. Her designs won awards. Architecture journals featured her work. The scared girl who'd opened that envelope 8 years ago felt like a different person entirely. But she never forgot. On the anniversary of receiving that letter each year, Samantha donated to scholarship funds for underprivileged students. It wasn't much compared to what had been given to her, but it was something. A way of passing forward the gift that had transformed her world. She was 29 when everything changed again. The meeting was supposed to be routine. Martinez and Associates had been commissioned to design a new mixed-use development downtown, and the client wanted to discuss the preliminary concepts. Samantha had been assigned as project lead, an honor that made her nervous despite her experience. This was a $50 million project, the biggest she'd helmed. The client specifically requested you, her boss Carlos Martinez had said, which was flattering and strange. Apparently he's familiar with your work on the Riverside residential project. The conference room was ready by 2 o'clock. Samantha had rehearsed her presentation 3 times, adjusted the renderings twice, and changed her blazer once when she spilled tea on the first one. Professional but approachable. Confident but open to feedback. She could do this. When the door opened and the client walked in, her carefully maintained composure stuttered. He was younger than she'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with dark hair that was slightly too long and sharp features that suggested intensity held under tight control. He wore an expensive suit with the ease of someone who'd never known anything else, but there was something warm in his dark eyes when he smiled at the assembled team. Handsome in a way that made her acutely aware of every strand of hair that had escaped her ponytail. "I'm Daniel Griffin," he said, and his voice was deep and measured. "Thank you all for meeting with me." The name rang distant bells. Griffin Development and Investment. She'd seen it in business journals. Daniel Griffin was a millionaire several times over, having made his fortune in strategic real estate investments before he was 30. Young, brilliant, and notoriously private about his personal life. They shook hands. His grip was firm, warm, and lasted a fraction of a second longer than strictly professional. Something flickered in his expression when their eyes met, gone too quickly to identify. "Miss Greene," he said, "I've been impressed by your portfolio. The way you balance aesthetic beauty with practical livability is remarkable." "Thank you," she managed, proud that her voice came out steady. "I believe architecture should serve the people who use it, not just make a statement." "I agree completely." "That's exactly the approach I want for this project." The meeting went smoothly. Daniel listened more than he spoke, asked insightful questions, and clearly understood design principles beyond what most clients bothered to learn. He wanted the development to revitalize the neighborhood without displacing existing residents, to create community spaces that would actually be used, to incorporate green technology without sacrificing warmth. It was everything Samantha loved about architecture, all the reasons she'd chosen this career. "I'd like to schedule regular check-ins," Daniel said as they wrapped up. "Not because I don't trust your vision, but because I want to be involved in the process. This project matters to me personally." "Of course," Carlos said quickly. "Samantha can meet with you weekly if that works." Which was how Samantha found herself sitting across from Daniel Griffin every Thursday afternoon for the next 3 months. The first few meetings were purely professional. They discussed zoning requirements and material choices, debated the merits of different heating systems, reviewed contractor bids. But gradually, Conversations began to stretch beyond the project. He asked about her background, seemed genuinely interested in her path to architecture. She learned he'd grown up in the city, that his father had been a construction worker who died in an accident when Daniel was 17, that he'd put himself through business school working 3 jobs. "That must have been difficult," Samantha said during one meeting, forgetting to maintain professional distance. "It taught me what matters," Daniel replied. "And what doesn't. Money is just a tool. What you do with it is what counts." There was something in the way he said it, an undercurrent of meaning she couldn't quite catch. But then he smiled, and she forgot about subtext entirely. She started looking forward to Thursdays with an intensity that had nothing to do with architecture. Started choosing her outfits more carefully, wearing the necklace that brought out her eyes, laughing too easily at his dry observations. This was dangerous territory. He was a client. She was the project lead. There were professional boundaries that mattered. But Daniel seemed to be having the same problem maintaining those boundaries. His emails grew longer, more personal. He brought coffee to meetings, remembered that she took it with cream and 1 sugar. Asked her opinion on things unrelated to the project. Smiled at her in a way that made her heart skip and stumble. "I think he likes you," her friend and colleague Rosa said, after watching Daniel leave one Thursday with a lingering glance back. "And you definitely like him." "He's a client," Samantha protested. "He's a gorgeous millionaire who looks at you like you hung the moon. When the project is done, there's nothing stopping you." But the project was scheduled to take 18 months, and Samantha was already half in love. It happened on a Thursday in October. The meeting ran long as they debated the design for the community center at the development's heart. Samantha wanted something open and welcoming, with lots of natural light. Daniel pushed back on some of the material choices, worried about long-term maintenance costs. They went back and forth, both stubborn, until suddenly they were standing over the same set of plans, close enough that she could smell his cologne. "What if we use this panel system here instead?" she said, pointing. Daniel leaned in to look. His shoulder brushed hers. Neither of them moved away. "That could work," he said quietly. "You're right. You're usually right." She turned her head and found him inches away, looking at her with an expression that made breathing difficult. The air between them felt electric, charged with months of careful restraint. "Samantha," he said, and her name in his voice sounded like a prayer. "This is a bad idea," she whispered. "The worst," he agreed. He kissed her anyway, soft at first, questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull back. She didn't. Instead, she leaned in, letting the careful distance she'd maintained collapse entirely. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone, and the tenderness of it made her ache. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back in. "I shouldn't have done that," Daniel said, but he didn't step back. "I'm sorry, that was unprofessional." "I kissed you back," Samantha pointed out. Her lips felt swollen, her heart racing. "I've wanted to for weeks. Still, I'm the client. The power dynamic makes this complicated. So we wait until the project is done. 18 months is a long time. Then we take the project off the table. You're not just a client to me anymore, Daniel. You haven't been for a while." He smiled, slow and devastating. "You're not just an architect to me either." "Haven't been since the first meeting." They tried to be professional after that. They really did. But it was impossible to unknow what they'd admitted. Every Thursday meeting crackled with tension. Every accidental touch felt deliberate. Every smile held promises. Finally, Daniel made a decision. He went to Carlos Martinez directly. "I need to disclose a potential conflict of interest," he told the senior partner. "I have personal feelings for Samantha Greene that go beyond professional respect." I want to continue with this project and with her as the lead architect, but I think you should know. Carlos, who'd been in the business for 30 years and had seen everything, just laughed. We'd noticed. The whole office has noticed. As long as the work remains excellent and everyone remains professional, your personal life is your business. So they stopped pretending. Daniel asked her to dinner properly, and Samantha said yes with a smile that made her face hurt. He took her to a quiet Italian place where the food was incredible, and the lighting was soft, and they talked for 4 hours about everything and nothing. Their childhoods and dreams, favorite books and worst fears, places they wanted to travel and projects they wanted to build. I can't remember the last time I enjoyed someone's company this much, Daniel admitted over tiramisu. Actually, I don't think I ever have. Me neither, Samantha said honestly. Usually I'm trying to prove myself or maintain some image. With you, I just feel like me. I like you, he said simply. So much. I like you too. He walked her to her apartment door, kissed her goodnight with a sweetness that made her knees weak, and texted her before she even got inside. Already missing you. They fell into a relationship that felt both natural and extraordinary. Daniel was busy with multiple projects and investments, Samantha with her architectural work, but they made time. Dinners during the week, long, lazy Sundays exploring the city. He brought her coffee in the mornings when he stayed over. She left books she thought he'd like on his nightstand. They fit together in ways that seemed impossible after such a short time. I feel like I've known you forever, Samantha said one night, curled against his side on her couch while rain pattered against the windows. I know what you mean, Daniel murmured into her hair. Like something just clicked into place. Her mother loved him, which was saying something. Linda Greene was protective of her daughter and skeptical of men with money. But Daniel won her over by asking about her work, eating 2 helpings of her pot roast and treating Samantha with obvious care and respect. He's a good one, Linda whispered while they washed dishes. Don't let this one go. I won't, Samantha promised. Months passed in a blur of happiness. The development project progressed beautifully. Samantha's designs won praise from the community and the city planning board. Daniel's investment partners were thrilled. And through it all, their relationship deepened and strengthened. He was different from anyone she'd ever dated. Thoughtful in ways that mattered. Remembered things she mentioned casually. Supported her career ambitions without trying to control or diminish them. Made her laugh until her stomach hurt. Kissed her like she was precious. I'm falling in love with you, Daniel told her one evening, 6 months into their relationship. They were at his penthouse apartment, cooking dinner together, and he said it so casually while chopping vegetables that she almost missed it. What? He set down the knife and turned to face her fully. I'm in love with you, Samantha. I probably have been for months, but I wanted to be sure, and I am, completely sure. Her heart felt like it might burst. I love you too, so much it scares me sometimes. He kissed her then, pulling her close, and she could feel him smiling against her lips. Don't be scared, I'm not going anywhere. But there was something he wasn't telling her. She felt it sometimes. A shadow that crossed his face when she talked about not taking things for granted or how lucky she'd been with the scholarship. He'd grow quiet and distant for a moment before shaking it off. When she asked, he said it was nothing, just business stress. She didn't quite believe him, but she trusted that he'd tell her when he was ready. The truth came out on a Saturday in April, almost exactly 9 years after the scholarship letter had arrived. They were at Daniel's apartment, planning a weekend trip to the coast, when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and frowned. I need to take this. Foundation business. I'll just be a minute. He stepped into his office, but the door didn't close all the way. Samantha wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but his voice carried. Yes, I want to increase the scholarship fund by another 200,000. We can support 4 more students with that. Make sure the selection committee prioritizes kids from single-parent households. Those are the ones who need it most. Pause. I don't need recognition. That defeats the purpose. Anonymous donors can do more good. People accept help more easily when there's no face attached to thank. Something cold settled in Samantha's stomach. She moved closer to the door without quite meaning to. How is Samantha Greene's report? She graduated 6 years ago now, right? I like to keep track of how the recipients are doing. The world tilted sideways. Blood rushed in her ears so loudly she almost missed Daniel's next words. She's done incredibly well. I'm proud of her, though she doesn't know I have any reason to be. Send me her contact information update if she's moved. I like to make sure the Christmas cards get to the right address. Samantha's hand found the doorframe, gripping hard enough that her knuckles went white. Christmas cards. She'd received them every year, unsigned except for a printed message wishing her well. She'd assumed they were from the foundation's general fund. Daniel said a few more things she didn't process, then ended the call. When he came back to the living room, he found her standing frozen in the middle of the room. Hey, sorry about that. Where were we? He smiled at her, then registered her expression. What's wrong? It was you. Her voice came out flat, emotionless. The scholarship. You were the donor. All the color drained from his face. Samantha, how long have you known who I was? Before the first meeting? Yes. He stepped toward her. She stepped back. He stopped, hands raised like he was approaching a frightened animal. But not the way you're thinking. Then tell me the way I should be thinking, Daniel, because right now I'm thinking that you've been lying to me for months. I haven't lied. Omission is lying. Her voice cracked. You funded my entire education, 4 years of my life, and you never thought to mention it. I wanted to. God, Samantha, I wanted to tell you so many times, but I didn't know how. How about, hey, funny coincidence, I'm the anonymous donor who paid for your college. That seems pretty straightforward. And when was the right time for that? The first meeting. You would have been completely uncomfortable. The second, the third, after we kissed, after we started dating. He dragged a hand through his hair, frustration and distress evident in every line of his body. I kept waiting for the right moment and it never came. So you just decided to keep it secret forever? No, I was going to tell you. I've been trying to figure out how. Samantha's mind raced, reframing every interaction they'd had through this new lens. When you said you specifically requested me for the project, you already knew who I was. I knew your name from the scholarship reports. When I saw your work featured in Architectural Digest, I looked into your firm. The work you'd done was exactly what I wanted for the development. That part was genuine. But you came into that first meeting already knowing everything about me. I knew facts from reports. I didn't know you. He took a careful step closer. She didn't back away this time. Meeting you, working with you, falling in love with you, all of that was real, completely real. Did you seek me out because of some savior complex? Because you wanted to see how your charity project turned out? No. His voice was fierce now. I funded hundreds of scholarships, Samantha. Hundreds. I don't track down every recipient and ask them to design my buildings. I chose your firm because you're brilliant at what you do. I fell in love with you because of who you are, not because I helped pay for your education 9 years ago. She wanted to believe him. Every fiber of her being wanted to accept that explanation and move past this. But the betrayal was too fresh, the sense of manipulation too strong. I need space, she said quietly. I need to think. Pain flashed across his face, but he nodded. Okay, I understand. Take all the time you need. The project continues as planned. This doesn't change your work. You've earned everything you've achieved, Samantha. That's not up for debate." She left without kissing him goodbye, without looking back, and cried the entire drive home. The next week was miserable. Daniel respected her request for space, but she could feel the weight of unsaid words between them. Thursday's meeting was professionally cordial and personally devastating. They discussed contractor timelines and change orders without once making eye contact. Rosa cornered her afterward. "What happened? You two look like someone died." Samantha told her everything. The scholarship, the secret, the fight. Rosa listened carefully, then said something unexpected. "So he changed your life, asked nothing in return, and then fell in love with you because you're amazing. That monster. He lied to me. Did he? Or did he just not tell you something he had no obligation to tell you? The donation was anonymous. He had every right to keep it that way. But we're together. You don't keep secrets like that. No, you don't keep secrets about things that affect the relationship. But this happened before he even met you. He made a donation to help a deserving student. That student happened to be you. Years later, you met professionally and fell in love. Where's the lie?" Samantha stared at her friend. "Whose side are you on?" "Yours, always. Which is why I'm telling you that you're about to throw away the best thing that ever happened to you over pride. It's not pride. It's about trust." "Then talk to him. Really talk, don't just yell and walk away. Because from where I'm sitting, that man is head over heels for you, and you're using this as an excuse to run because you're scared." "I'm not scared. You're terrified. You always have been. Terrified that good things aren't permanent, that people leave, that happiness doesn't last. Your dad walking out really did a number on you." The words hit harder because they were true. Samantha went home that night and stared at her ceiling, forcing herself to be honest. Was she actually angry about the secret? Or was she looking for a reason to sabotage this before Daniel could leave first? She thought about the man she'd fallen in love with. His kindness, his integrity, his unwavering support of her dreams. The way he listened when she talked about work stress or family problems. How he remembered her coffee order and her mother's birthday and the name of her childhood dog. The way he kissed her forehead and held her close and made her feel safer than she'd ever felt. He'd changed her life twice now. Once with anonymous generosity that expected nothing. Once by loving her exactly as she was, and she'd walked away because he hadn't told her about the first gift. Samantha picked up her phone. "Can we talk?" she texted. The response came within seconds. "Yes, when and where? Your place? Now." "I'll be here." The drive to his penthouse felt both endless and too short. She used the key he'd given her months ago to let herself in. Daniel was standing by the windows, looking out at the city lights, and turned when he heard her enter. He looked exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes that suggested he'd slept as poorly as she had. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi." He didn't move toward her, giving her control of the space and the conversation. "I'm sorry for running away, and for not listening properly. I got scared and defensive and I lashed out. You had every right to be angry. I should have told you sooner. I was a coward." "Why did you do it? Fund the scholarships, I mean." Daniel turned back to the window and she moved to stand beside him. "My dad died when I was 17. Construction accident. The safety measures that should have been in place weren't, because his boss cut corners to save money. Dad's life insurance barely covered the funeral. My mom was a wreck. I had to drop out of school to work." He said it matter-of-factly, but she could hear the old pain underneath. She took his hand. He gripped it like a lifeline. "I worked 3 jobs for 2 years to save money. Then I went to business school at night while working days. Took me 7 years to get my degree. I swore that if I ever made money, really made it, I'd help kids who were stuck the way I was. Kids who had potential but no opportunity. So you started the scholarship fund. The year I sold my first company, I was 26 and suddenly had more money than I knew what to do with. The scholarships felt like the best possible use. I could give other people what I'd needed desperately and couldn't have. Why anonymous? Because it's not about recognition or gratitude. It's about helping. Simple as that. He turned to face her fully. When I chose you for the scholarship, I only knew what was in your application. Single mother household, working full-time while in high school, excellent grades despite everything, passionate about architecture. You deserved help, so I helped. And when you met me, I recognized your name from reports I'd read over the years. I was curious, I'll admit that. But Samantha, I looked at your portfolio before I ever contacted your firm. Your work spoke for itself. The Riverside project was featured in 3 major publications. Your design for that community library won awards. You didn't get this project because of charity. You got it because you earned it. And us, his voice softened. Us happened because you're brilliant and driven and funny and kind, because you challenge me and inspire me and make every day better. Because somewhere along the way I fell completely in love with you, and it had nothing to do with a scholarship from 9 years ago. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too, so much. And I'm sorry I made this about me and my insecurities instead of seeing it for what it was. What was it? An incredible gift given freely, expecting nothing in return. The act of someone with a genuinely good heart. The first of many reasons I should be grateful you're in my life. Daniel pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. She buried her face in his chest and felt him press a kiss to the top of her head. I should have told you sooner, he murmured. You're right about that. I just didn't want to change how you saw yourself. Everything you've accomplished is because of your talent and hard work. The scholarship just removed some barriers. You did the rest. I know that, I do. But for a minute there, I felt like maybe I hadn't earned any of it, like I was just someone's project. You were never a project, not then, not now. You were a deserving student who needed help, that's all. She pulled back to look at him. No more secrets, I promise. Even if you think you're protecting me, even then. We're a team. Teams communicate. She kissed him, pouring apology and love and promise into it. He responded in kind, one hand cradling her face while the other pressed against her back, drawing her closer. Stay tonight, he asked when they finally broke apart. I'll stay every night if you want me to. I want that. I want everything with you. They made dinner together, falling back into their comfortable rhythm. But something had shifted. The secret that had stood between them was gone, replaced by deeper understanding. Daniel told her stories about other scholarship recipients, his pride in their accomplishments evident. Samantha shared more about the struggle of those years before the scholarship, how scared she'd been, how impossible the future had seemed. I used to lie awake at night doing math in my head, she admitted. Trying to figure out how many years it would take to save enough for school while helping my mom with rent and my brother's expenses. The numbers never worked. There was never a clear path forward. And then the letter came. And suddenly I had a future. Do you know what that feels like? To go from hopeless to possible in the space of a single piece of paper. Actually, I do. The day I sold my first company and realized I'd never have to choose between rent and food again, that I could help my mom, that I could help other people. It was transformative. So we both understand what it means to have your life change. Yeah, we do. Understanding that shared experience brought them even closer. Samantha thought about the anonymous donor who changed her life and felt overwhelming gratitude that he'd turned out to be Daniel. That the person with the generous heart and the desire to help was also the man she loved. The development project finished on schedule and under budget. The grand opening was a community celebration, with local residents exploring the new spaces Samantha had designed with such care. Watching people move through her buildings, seeing children play in the community center and families gather in the courtyard, filled her with pride she'd never quite felt before. "You did this," Daniel said, appearing at her elbow with 2 glasses of champagne. "This is all you." "We did this," she corrected. "Your vision, my designs, our collaboration." "I like the sound of that, our collaboration." The project won awards. Architectural journals praised the thoughtful integration of affordable housing with green spaces. Urban planning conferences used it as a case study. Martinez and Associates received a dozen new inquiries based on the publicity. Samantha's career reached new heights, but more importantly, her relationship with Daniel continued to deepen. They moved in together after a year, choosing a place with space for both of them to work from home. He proposed on a quiet Sunday morning, no fanfare or elaborate production, just the 2 of them and coffee and the simple question of whether she wanted to spend forever together. "Yes," she said, before he'd even finished asking. "Absolutely yes." They married the following spring in a small ceremony with close friends and family. Linda cried through the entire event. Samantha's brother gave a speech about how his sister had always been the person who made impossible things happen, and how he was glad she'd found someone who saw that in her. Daniel's mother, a warm woman who'd welcomed Samantha from their first meeting, told her she'd prayed for years that her son would find someone who understood him. "You make him happy in a way I've never seen," she said, squeezing Samantha's hands. "Thank you for loving him." "It's the easiest thing I've ever done," Samantha replied honestly. Their honeymoon was 2 weeks in Italy, exploring ancient architecture and eating incredible food and making love in beautiful hotels. They talked about the future, about the buildings they wanted to create and the family they hoped to have, about growing old together and all the adventures in between. "I want at least 2 kids," Daniel said one evening over dinner in Rome. "Maybe 3, a house full of noise and chaos and love." "I want that too," Samantha agreed, "though I have no idea how we'll manage careers and children. The same way we manage everything else, together." They returned home ready to start the next chapter. Samantha made partner at Martinez and Associates, the youngest person to ever achieve that position. Daniel's investment portfolio continued to grow, but he devoted more time to philanthropic work, expanding the scholarship fund and starting new initiatives for job training and small business loans. "I make money so I can give it away," he told an interviewer once. "That's what it's for, helping people reach their potential." They bought a house in a good neighborhood with excellent schools, 4 bedrooms, big backyard, and a home office they could share. Samantha got pregnant 2 months after the move, and they spent the next 9 months preparing in a flurry of paint samples and furniture assembly and parenting books. Emma arrived on a Tuesday morning in October, tiny and perfect and demanding. Holding her daughter for the first time, Samantha felt her heart expand in ways she hadn't known were possible. Daniel cried openly, pressing kisses to both his girls' foreheads, whispering promises about the life they'd give her. "She'll never doubt she's loved," he vowed. "She'll never have to struggle the way we did, but we'll make sure she understands how lucky she is, that she uses her advantages to help others." "We'll teach her," Samantha agreed. "By example." 2 years later, they had a son. Jacob was loud where Emma had been quiet, constantly in motion where she'd been calm. Their house filled with toys and laughter and the beautiful chaos Daniel had wanted. Samantha worked part-time for the first few years, then gradually increased her hours as the kids grew. Daniel was hands-on in a way that would have seemed impossible to the young man who'd worked 3 jobs with no time for anything else. "This is what I was working toward," he said one evening, watching Emma show Jacob how to stack blocks. "This right here, family, purpose, love." "We're lucky," Samantha said, leaning against him. "We made our luck, both of us. We worked hard and helped each other and built something beautiful." On their 10th wedding anniversary, Daniel took her back to the Italian restaurant where they'd had their first date. Same table, same menu, but everything different because of all they'd built together. "You remember what I said that first night?" he asked over dessert. "About not remembering when I'd enjoyed someone's company so much. I remember everything about that night." "I've spent the last 12 years enjoying your company, Samantha, and it just keeps getting better. You're my best friend, my partner, the love of my life. Thank you for taking a chance on me." "Thank you for seeing me," she replied. "For believing in me before we ever met and for loving me once we did. Thank you for being exactly who you are. To another 10 years, he raised his glass. To 50 more, she countered. They clinked glasses, smiling at each other across the table with the ease of people who'd walked through fire together and come out stronger. Who'd faced their fears and chosen love anyway. Who'd built a life that honored both where they'd come from and where they were going. Later, walking to the car with Daniel's hand warm in hers, Samantha thought about that envelope that had arrived so many years ago. About the terrified girl who'd read those words and dared to hope. She wished she could go back and tell that girl that everything would work out better than she could imagine. That the anonymous donor would turn out to be her future. That generosity would circle back around as love, but maybe she didn't need to. Maybe that girl had known, somewhere deep down, that accepting help was the first step toward everything else. That grace received could become grace given. That sometimes the universe conspired to bring people together in the most unexpected ways. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked, noticing her smile. "Just that I'm grateful for all of it. The scholarship, the project, meeting you, everything that followed. Me too." He pulled her close, kissing her temple. "Best investment I ever made. I'm not an investment, no," he agreed. "You're so much more than that. You're my whole world." They drove home through the city they both loved, past buildings she'd designed and communities he'd helped develop, toward the house where their children slept and their life together continued to unfold. Past and future woven together into a present neither had dreamed possible all those years ago. The scholarship had given Samantha an education. But meeting Daniel had taught her something no classroom could. That generosity creates ripples that spread farther than you can see. That love and work and purpose intertwine in unexpected ways. That the best things in life often come from someone believing in your potential before you fully believe in it yourself. She'd spent years wondering who would do something so kind for a stranger. Turns out the answer was the man who would eventually become her everything. The millionaire behind the anonymous gift had also been the person waiting on the other side of all her dreams, ready to build new ones together. Sometimes life works out in ways that make perfect sense only in retrospect. Sometimes the person who changes your trajectory once does it again, and then again, until you realize they've been part of your story all along, even before you met. Samantha had been given a gift with no strings attached. She'd taken that gift and transformed it into a career, a calling, a life. And somewhere along the way, she'd fallen in love with the giver, not because of what he'd done but because of who he was. A man who'd faced his own struggles and decided to ease the path for others. A man who led with his heart and measured success by impact rather than profit. A man who loved her completely and built a family with her joyfully. They pulled into their driveway, and lights glowed warmly from inside their home. Emma's artwork covered the windows, displayed proudly. Jacob's bike lay abandoned on the lawn where he'd left it before dinner. evidence of life being fully lived by people who understood how precious it was. Home, Daniel said, and the word held everything: shelter and love and safety, past and present and future, all the dreams they'd chased and the ones they'd built together. Home, Samantha echoed and meant it with her whole heart. They walked inside together, hand in hand, ready for whatever came next, because they had each other and their children and the knowledge that good things were possible. That hard work combined with opportunity could transform lives. That anonymous generosity could become lasting love. The envelope had arrived on a Tuesday morning in March, unmarked except for her name, and inside had been the first chapter of a story that was still being written. A story about a girl who dared to dream and a boy who'd learned to give. About paths that crossed and lives that intertwined. About finding forever in the most unexpected place. It was a love story, yes, but it was also a story about belief, in potential and possibility, in the power of helping others and the way grace circles back, in the truth that the best investments are the ones you make in people, expecting nothing but hoping for everything. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, the person you helped becomes the person who helps you understand what love really means, who shows you that home is not a place but a person, who builds a life with you that honors both the struggles that shaped you and the joys still to come. Samantha Greene had once been a girl with impossible dreams and no clear path forward. Daniel Griffin had once been a boy who'd fought his way out of poverty and decided to bring others with him. Together, they'd become something more than either could have been alone. Partners in work and life and love. Parents who taught their children to be both grateful and generous. People who'd taken their hard-won understanding of struggle and used it to create beauty in the world. The scholarship had been the beginning, but the love they'd built was the story that mattered. And it was a story that would continue through all the years ahead, growing richer and deeper with each passing season. Because some things are meant to be, even when they start as anonymous gifts expecting nothing in return. Some people are meant to find each other, even if it takes years and changed circumstances to bring them together. Some love stories begin long before the lovers meet, in acts of kindness that ripple forward through time until they come full circle. This was that story. And they would live it together, grateful for every unexpected turn that brought them here, ready for everything still to come.